guys, welcome back to Stanley Parable Part 2. This time I'm gonna follow him until I get to the stairs, because apparently there is a...
Listen to the talking walls, goddammit!
Apparently there is a special ending if you follow all of them until the stairs, then you disobey the rest of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip the intro. Okay, let's go. Like
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Mission already accomplished. Ooh, look.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
Give me some water, goddammit! It's a long walk.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Okay, we want to walk downstairs then.
No!
This is the secret ending, dude.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. But he considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work and he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that risk? All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Was he just walking around in circles?
Yes.
Where am I, he thought. And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise, until he came to the issue that had been slowly boiling until he could ignore it no longer. Why is there a voice in my head, dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Suddenly, every door slammed shut. No, Stanley screamed. I need to get out of here. I need to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head. And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real! And then everything went black.
What the fuck?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Ooh, Mariella.
Wait, what?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Flag.
Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move. The tragedy was not the death of a single person. It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him, or what he believed had happened to him. For to know these things would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him. But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with, very important people, whose impressions of her would affect her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
So that was the second ending of this game.
Oh god, what's the
Or we
third
end as
number?
a psycho. So let's get ahead and break into the next one. The one where you follow all the rules.
Oh god, I'm scared. I'm scared, kid. Talking walls.
Stanley decided to go to the
There's
staff
like 15
lounge
different
to
endings
check
to
on
this,
his
but these are the main
co-workers.
3.
He never
that I know
functioned
of.
well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others,
Ah.
so the thought of total solitude was terrifying
Total
to him.
solitude, anal sex, I get it.
When Stanley came to a set of
troll
2
them.
open doors, this was not the correct way to the employee
this is
lounge,
where you
and
actually
Stanley knew
listen
it
to him
perfectly
going
well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction. And like that, he was back on track.
You gotta troll around with this guy. Makes the game more fun.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss,
Damn it, so
hoping that
fat.
he would find an answer
I
there.
can't even. Is there no crouching key in this? I just realized that. It says there is, but apparently there's no. Let's go.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nope. See his boss.
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret. And so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college.
Damn it.
1957.
Okay.
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
1957. I think that was what it was.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened as he drew deeper into the bowels of the building. Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held.
Oh,
and just
I
as he
just
began
bugged
to think he
myself.
might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors. Screens with a number
Oh,
above it.
427.
Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number
hell
of
is 420?
employees who worked in the building,
427.
his
What the
co-workers.
hell is 420?
Even his own number, 427, had a place on the
Damn it,
wall.
why is there no 420?
But why set up so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel Stanley discovered, but not one
Button.
that controlled simple
Yes.
machinery. Buttons were
Button.
labeled with emotions.
Yes.
Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions.
One side of the
Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being.
Damn it, so you lied to me.
And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and
penis
saw the
lady.
generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters. higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
Okay.
These ladders. Engage generator. Engage generator.
Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you?
No.
After it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
Control?
Yes.
Stanley. Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes. Now, this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? Go ahead, play with those controls all you like. The real controls are where I'm sitting. Did you really ever believe you held any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom. An escape. I didn't have to do that. I've run this story many times and I don't always set you free. Sometimes you just sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever and then dying alone. But when I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not enough. I let you go and you trapped yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort of responsibility, I'm afraid. But you know what you were made for? Pushing buttons. You get it now? Now I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much fun. There we go. You see, I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right? The timer, the nuclear detonation, the mysterious facility, it's all here. This is a video game. Except for one thing there, hero. You've got no weapon, no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going. When you saw that timer, you just instinctively started trying to find an exit, didn't you? In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out. I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle, as though this game has a solution, as though it can be won. That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment. And then he lets go. He surrenders. And he dies.
This is very
30
depressing.
seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds. Until a boom. And then nothing. No ending to this story, just you dying. I suppose you could have gotten an actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it? Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this timer.
Yes.
But you won't be alone, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
That made me jump. Alright guys, that's Stanley Pyro 43. I'm just gonna go ahead and do another one in a couple of days. So yeah, like I said, you can do it. Thank you guys later.